Good people do not break because they are weak. They break because they walk through life with a heart that has no armor, no shield, no walls to keep out the cold. Think about it for a moment. In almost every group you have ever been part of, whether it is a workplace, a family, a circle of friends, the first people to burn out are not the loud, selfish ones. They are not the ones who cut corners, deflect responsibility, or vanish when things get hard. They are the quiet, reliable ones. The ones who show up early, stay late, and say with a tired smile, "It is okay, do not worry about it, I will handle it." The kind, the soft-spoken, the people who would rather absorb the hurt themselves than pass it on to someone else. And underneath all of this is a brutal, uncomfortable question that most of us do not want to face. Why are the people who never hurt anyone so often the ones who carry the deepest wounds? Why does it seem like the more gentle your heart is, the more cruel your life becomes? Why does kindness feel like a slow form of self-destruction? You probably know this feeling in your bones. There was a time you tried to do the right thing, and somehow you became the problem. You told the truth with care, and people said you were overreacting or being too sensitive. You tried to keep the peace by staying silent, swallowing your words, and people decided your silence meant you agreed with everything, that you had no opinion, that you were fine with how things were. Maybe you remember a specific moment. You had a big commitment on your calendar, something important for your own future. Maybe a class you needed to attend, a personal appointment you had been waiting weeks for, or a rare evening you had set aside just for yourself. But a friend panicked and called you. Their voice was shaking. They said they needed you right now, that it could not wait. So you cancelled your plan without a second thought, swallowed your disappointment, and rushed to help them. You sat with them for hours. You listened to every detail of their crisis. You gave advice. You paid for coffee, maybe even dinner. You stayed until they felt better, until their breathing slowed, until they smiled again and said, "Thank you. I do not know what I would do without you." You drove home tired but satisfied, thinking, "At least I showed up when it mattered." Then one day, you needed them, not even in a dramatic way. You were not falling apart. You were not in crisis. You just needed a ride, a favor, a small show of effort. Maybe you needed someone to listen for 20 minutes. Maybe you needed help moving a piece of furniture, something simple, something you thought would be easy for someone who cared about you. And you heard this sentence, said so casually it cut like glass. "Can we do it tomorrow? Today is a little inconvenient." Or maybe they said, "I am really busy right now, can you ask someone else?" You hung up and stared at the wall. Your chest felt tight, and a thought you did not want to admit started circling in your mind. Maybe you have been kind to the wrong people. Maybe you have been loyal to people who only see you as a backup plan, a convenience, a resource they can tap into when they need something, but ignore when you do. And once that thought appears, it does not leave easily. It sits in the back of your mind during every conversation, every text message, every interaction. You start to wonder who would actually show up for you if you really needed them. Many of us were raised on a simple phrase, "If you are a good person, good things will happen to you." It sounds beautiful. It sounds fair. It sounds like the world is a neat equation where kindness always comes back with interest, where what you give out eventually returns to you multiplied. But the psychology of real relationships tells a harsher story. The kinder a person is, the more likely they are to become an emotional landing strip for everyone around them. They become the person people call when they are heartbroken, furious, confused, or drowning in chaos. They become the rescuer, the fixer, the one who is always there, the one who never says no, the one who can be counted on no matter what. Over time, this creates a secret belief that destroys them from the inside. If they just try a little harder, if they just give a little more, if they just stay a little longer, everything will finally get better. They keep investing in people who never invest back, because walking away feels like betrayal. It feels wrong. It feels selfish. It feels not nice. The problem is not their goodness. The problem is not their heart. The problem is the rule they swallowed without questioning. Good people must always keep trying, no matter how much it costs, no matter how much it hurts, no matter how little comes back. There are 3 invisible habits that make good people the first to be hurt, the first to break, the first to burn out. First, excessive responsibility. This is when you quietly pick up tasks, emotions, and problems that do not actually belong to you. Someone else drops the ball at work, misses a deadline, forgets an important detail, and you stay late to fix it, because you cannot stand the idea of the whole team suffering. A family member makes a mess of their life, drowns in debt, ruins their relationships, makes the same mistakes over and over, and you step in as the unofficial therapist, banker, and crisis manager because you tell yourself, if I do not handle this, everything will fall apart. You become the safety net that no one pays attention to until it snaps. You carry the weight of other people's choices on your shoulders, and the worst part is, they stop seeing it as help. They start seeing it as your job. Second, excessive empathy. Empathy is beautiful. Empathy is what connects us to each other, what makes us human. But when you always understand everyone else, and no one stops to understand you, it becomes a cage. You excuse bad behavior because they had a rough childhood. You forgive broken promises because they are under a lot of stress right now. You defend them to yourself. You say, they did not mean it that way. Even when your stomach knows they did. Even when your gut is screaming that you are lying to yourself. You become so busy seeing their pain, analyzing their trauma, making space for their flaws, that you completely ignore your own. You become a full-time emotional translator for people who never bother to learn your language. Third, thin boundaries. This is the inability to say no without drowning in guilt. You say yes when you are tired. You say yes when you are overwhelmed. You say yes when your whole body is screaming no, when your calendar is full, when you have nothing left to give. You do not know how to stop the conversation, how to step away, how to let someone be disappointed in you and still be at peace with yourself. The idea of someone thinking badly of you, even for a moment, feels unbearable. So you stretch yourself thinner and thinner until there is almost nothing left. Put these 3 together and you have a recipe for heartbreak. Not because you are weak, but because your heart is exposed on every side, unprotected, vulnerable to every sharp edge in the world. There is a cost that good people pay that almost no one sees. It is not on a receipt. It is not in a contract. It lives entirely inside their head. A constant invisible tax on their peace of mind. They blame themselves first in almost every situation. If a conversation feels off, they replay every sentence in their mind and wonder what they did wrong, what they should have said differently, how they could have been better. If someone seems distant, their first thought is not, maybe they are going through something. It is, did I disappoint them? Did I do something wrong? If a relationship is strained, they will rewrite the entire story in their head so that they become the villain and the other person becomes the misunderstood hero. They give everyone else the benefit of the doubt, but never give it to themselves. They live in constant emotional pressure, like standing under a waterfall that never turns off. There is a running checklist in their mind at all times. Did they say something rude without noticing? Did they forget to respond to someone? Did they do enough? Did they give enough? Are they enough? Picture this. A good person is lying in bed at night, staring at the ceiling. Their body is exhausted. Their muscles ache. They should be asleep. But their mind is wide awake, running at full speed. They are replaying every conversation from the day, scanning each one for possible damage. Did that joke go too far? Did that text sound cold or dismissive? Did they fail somebody without realizing it? They run a silent investigation against themselves every single night, cross-examining their own words, their own actions, their own intentions. Their heart races a little when they remember a moment where they might have seemed short or distracted. They wonder if they hurt someone's feelings without meaning to. They pick apart their own words until nothing feels innocent anymore, until every sentence feels like a potential mistake. Somewhere else, in another house, a careless person climbs into bed. They open a social media app for a minute, scroll past a few videos, and fall asleep in 5 minutes flat. No replay, no self-cross-examination, no emotional audit. Their mind is light because they never slow down enough to examine the weight they put on others. They do not wonder if they hurt anyone. They do not lose sleep over a careless comment. They move through life unburdened by the consequences of their actions because they simply do not think about them. This is one of the cruelest gaps between the good-hearted and the indifferent. The kinder you are, the heavier the mental taxes you quietly pay. The more you care, the more you suffer. The deeper your empathy, the sharper your pain. Here is the painful paradox that no one talks about. Shallow people often float through life more lightly than deep people. Someone who refuses to think deeply about their impact, about their words, about their choices, often walks around feeling completely fine. They do not carry guilt. They do not replay conversations. They do not wonder if they did enough. Meanwhile, the person who thinks deeply, feels deeply, and cares deeply is dragged under by the very depth that makes them beautiful. The less someone cares, the stronger they appear to be. They move on quickly from conflict. They do not apologize much because they do not believe they did anything wrong. They do not analyze their behavior. They just act and move forward. People look at them and say, "Wow, they are so confident. Nothing bothers them. They are so strong." But strength that is built on numbness is not real strength. It is armor made of concrete. It does not bend, so it never grows. It does not feel, so it never learns. And in this upside-down world, the people with the most beautiful hearts end up carrying the deepest scars. The very qualities that make them incredible friends, partners, teammates, and human beings also make them prime targets for exploitation. The paradox is simple and cruel. The more beautiful your heart is, the more carefully you must guard it. The more you are capable of love, the more you must protect yourself from those who would take that love for granted. There is a trap that almost every good person falls into, and it has a name: the nice person tax. This is not a tax you file once a year. It is a tax you pay every single day in small, invisible ways, just because people know you are kind. It shows up as time tax. People assume your schedule is always flexible. They cancel on you at the last minute because they know you will understand. They add just one more thing to your plate because they know you will not say no. They show up late to meet you because you will understand. You are so chill about these things. Slowly, your own life shrinks to make room for everyone else's emergencies, everyone else's poor planning, everyone else's lack of respect for your time. It shows up as emotional tax. People use you as their free therapist. They call you to unload their stress, their anger, their anxiety, and then hang up without asking how you are doing. They vent, they rage, they cry, and when they feel better, when they have transferred all their heavy emotions onto you, they disappear. You are left drained, holding their secrets and their stress, carrying their emotional weight, with no one holding yours. You become a dumping ground for other people's pain. It shows up as expectation tax. Because you have always been understanding, people expect you to always understand. Because you have always been generous, people expect you to always give. Because you have always been patient, people expect you to tolerate behavior that no reasonable person should tolerate. Your kindness stops being seen as a gift and starts being treated as a duty, an obligation, something you owe them. The bar for how they treat you gets lower and lower, while the bar for what they expect from you gets higher and higher. And then there is the responsibility tax. Others quietly shift their responsibilities onto you. Group projects at school or work, family obligations, friendship logistics, emotional labor, all of it slowly slides onto your shoulders. When something needs to be handled, everyone looks at you. And if you ever step back, if you ever set a boundary, if you ever say, "I cannot do this right now," suddenly you become selfish, or you have changed, or you are not the person I thought you were. Here is the harsh truth. Once people get used to receiving from you, they stop seeing it as kindness. They start seeing it as your job. They start seeing you as a function, not a person. And the moment your gift becomes an expectation, your heart begins to suffocate. If this feels painfully familiar, if your chest tightened while reading this, here is the most important thing to understand. You are not wrong for being kind. You are not wrong for loving deeply. You are not wrong for caring about people. Your only mistake was never learning how to protect your own goodness, how to set boundaries around your own heart. You are allowed to notice the signs that it is time to step back. It might be time to retreat when you always give more than you receive, not in a single bad week, but as a long-term pattern that has been going on for months or years. When the only way to keep a relationship alive is to accept constant hurt, to swallow your needs, to hide your pain so the other person can stay comfortable. When you find yourself constantly cleaning up someone else's messes while they continue to live exactly the same way, making the same mistakes, expecting you to fix it every time. There is a question worth asking yourself, a mirror moment that can feel brutal but necessary. Pick a relationship, a friend group, a workplace, even a family dynamic, and ask yourself this: if you disappeared tomorrow, what would they really lose? Would they miss you? The person, your laugh, your presence, your heart, the unique way you see the world? Or would they mostly miss the way you solved their problems, the way you made their life easier, the way you carried their burdens? Would they grieve the loss of you? Or would they just be inconvenient by the absence of your usefulness? If the honest answer scares you, if it makes you feel sick, that fear is information. It is not a command to hate them. It is not permission to be cruel. It is an invitation to protect yourself, to step back, to reconsider where you are investing your precious time and energy. Imagine someone at work. They are not the star in the spotlight. They are not the one giving big speeches in meetings or taking credit for major wins. They are the quiet backbone of the team, the person who makes everything run smoothly. Whenever a project runs late, they volunteer to stay after hours without being asked. When a coworker is overwhelmed, drowning in tasks, they say, "Do not worry, I can help with that. Just send it over." When the manager sends an urgent email at 7 in the evening, at 9 at night, on a weekend, they are the first one to respond, the most reliable, the most dependable. They skip dinners with friends. They skip weekends. They skip rest because there is always one more thing to finish, always one more fire to put out. The team gets used to it. The manager gets used to it. It becomes normal, expected, assumed that this one person will carry more than everyone else. No one checks in. No one asks if they are okay. No one notices the exhaustion in their eyes. Their effort becomes invisible precisely because it is constant. Then one day, a big deadline is missed. The project falls behind schedule. Clients are unhappy. Leadership is looking for answers. Instead of asking how it got to this point, instead of examining the workload distribution or the team structure or the unrealistic expectations, the leadership looks for someone to blame. And who do they choose? The one person whose name is on every task, the person who helped everyone, the person who took on extra work to save the team. Suddenly, the narrative flips. The helper becomes the scapegoat. They hear things like, You should have spoken up sooner about the workload, from the same people who benefited every time they did not speak up at all. They hear, you took on too much, you should have delegated, from the same manager who never once said no to their requests for help, who kept piling more and more onto their plate. Eventually, this person leaves the company. They carry their grief, their anger, their sense of betrayal to a new place. They wonder if they will ever trust a team again. But at this new job, something different happens. Their effort is noticed and appreciated. Their limits are respected. When they say, no, I cannot take that on right now, people listen and respect it. When someone else drops a ball, it stays theirs to pick up. It does not automatically roll to the reliable person. Over time, this person realizes something powerful, something that changes their entire perspective. There was nothing wrong with their work ethic. There was nothing wrong with their heart. There was nothing wrong with their desire to help. The problem was the environment that fed on their kindness without giving them respect, that used their reliability as a weapon against them. And that is the point. Boundaries do not make you selfish. Boundaries do not make you a bad person. Boundaries make it possible for people to see your real value, to appreciate what you give instead of demanding it as a right. It is time to rewrite what it means to be a good person. A good person is not someone who always takes the hit so others can feel comfortable. A good person is not the one who always gives way, always says, "It is fine," through gritted teeth, and always carries the heavier load without complaint. That is not goodness. That is self-erasure. That is disappearing yourself to make room for everyone else. A good person is not meant to be a doormat. Your purpose in life is not to lie flat on the ground so other people can wipe their dirty shoes on your soul and walk away cleaner while you stay stained. True goodness includes self-respect. A truly good person knows they deserve to be treated with care, with consideration, with the same kindness they extend to others. They know they are not a tool to be used when convenient and discarded when not needed. They are not a backup plan. They are not emotional furniture in someone else's house, something to lean on when tired but never given a second thought. They know their needs are not a burden. Their limits are not flaws. Their no is not a moral failure. It is a complete sentence. It is self-preservation. It is wisdom. A kind heart without self-respect is like a house with all the doors wide open, unlocked, with a sign outside that says, "Take whatever you want." People can walk in and out whenever they want, take whatever they like, leave a mess behind, and never face any consequences. A kind heart with self-respect knows how to close the door, how to lock it when necessary, and how to choose very carefully who gets a key, who gets access to the most vulnerable parts of who they are. Here is the heart of all of this, the central truth that changes everything. Kindness is a light, but even light needs protection. A candle without a shield will flicker and die in the first strong wind that comes along. But a light inside a lantern, protected by glass, by metal, by structure, can keep burning through a storm. Your heart does not need to become harder. You do not have to turn cold. You do not have to build walls so high that no one can reach you. You do not have to mirror the people who hurt you, becoming just as careless, just as selfish, just as numb. You do not have to stop caring. That would be a tragedy, a loss to the world. Your heart only needs to learn a new skill, a crucial skill that no one teaches us, how not to give itself away to people who have repeatedly shown they will not hold it carefully. You do not need a new heart. You need new rules for where you place it, new standards for who gets access to it. If you have ever felt like you broke, like you shattered into pieces, it was not because you are weak. You broke because you were trying to lift people who refused to stand up on their own, who wanted to stay down and use you as a crutch forever. You poured your strength, your time, your energy, your love into people who were committed to their own comfort, not to mutual growth, not to reciprocity, not to actually changing. Your kindness is not the problem. It never was. The problem is that you handed it to people and situations that only knew how to consume, how to take, how to drain, but never how to give back, never how to reciprocate. You kept putting your heart into hands that had no idea how to hold it, that treated it carelessly, that dropped it repeatedly, and expected you to pick up the pieces yourself. When you learn to protect your own heart, when you finally build boundaries and standards and self-respect, your kindness transforms. It stops being an open wound that anyone can pour salt into. It starts becoming a source of strength, of power, of genuine connection. You are still soft, but you are not unguarded anymore. You still care deeply, but you are not available for exploitation. You still give generously, but only where there is also respect, where there is reciprocity, where there is genuine appreciation instead of entitled expectation. If you are listening to this right now and you know your heart is tired, if you feel exhausted from caring so much, from giving so much, but you still choose to be kind because that is who you are at your core, do something simple. Leave a yellow heart in the comments. It is a small way of saying, I am still choosing goodness, I am still choosing love, and I am also finally choosing myself. And if someone came to mind while you were listening to this, someone who is always there for everyone, someone whose kindness is starting to crack under the weight of being taken for granted, send this to them. Share it. Let them know they are not alone. Sometimes a single reminder at the right moment, a single message that says, I see you, your kindness matters, and you deserve better, can keep one more good heart from breaking all over again.